For insight on how these topics and more could play a role in the general election, we are joined by North Dakota Governor and former Republican presidential candidate Doug Burgum. Governor, it's good to see you. Thanks for being here.
Natasha, thanks for having me on.
Many Republicans say that they disagree with the Alabama Supreme Court ruling in the IVF case. Do you concur with some of your fellow party members who are calling to protect IVF at this time?
Well, absolutely. And I think that there's been a lot of confusion about this. I don't know any Republicans that are running, like for U.S. Senate. President Trump made a very clear statement that he supports Americans. We want to make it easier for people to have healthy families and grow families in America. So again, hopefully people will understand this quickly, that this is not a political issue, that the current Republican Party is going to be, they're not going to be supporting this because Republicans support IVF.
What do you make of Nikki Haley's initial statement? When you talk about an embryo, you're talking to me about a life.
Well, I think relative to Nikki Haley, it's the primary is over. President Trump has won every state he's been in. He's won by large margins. If it was any other time, any other year, and any other person than President Trump, everybody would be talking about, wow, I mean, this is like a Reagan-esque landslide victory over everybody ahead of him. And now with these states that are coming up that are winner take all, it's really conclusive that President Trump is going to win the nomination. And so I think it's not really relevant. And Nikki Haley appeared to make a statement that she thought that embryos were babies. That would be disturbing for most Republicans that support IVF, but it's not really relevant because President Trump's going to be the nominee. And he's the one that's saying very clearly that he supports IVF.
Do you think that Haley should drop out of the race now?
Well, every day that she's in the race is a day that Democrats are happy. I mean, I've had leading Democrats. I just came back from the National Governors Association, and people were, commenting, saying, wow, she's the best surrogate for Biden in the country because, every day she's out there attacking President Trump. And what we know that President Biden is wrong on the economy. He's wrong on energy. He's wrong on national security. He's wrong on border security. And in a year of a presidential race, this is what we as a Republican Party should unite. We should unite behind the nominee and start talking about the policies that are taking our country in the wrong direction.
Let's talk about the border because it remains an important topic for voters ahead of Super Tuesday as well. There is a new report about Donald Trump's plans if he regains the Oval, calling for detention camps and military flights to deport migrants. Now, you recently visited the southern border, I know, and you've deployed North Dakota National Guardsmen to the area as well. Would you support this plan, detention camps and military flights for deportation?
Well, right now, we're not. It's just a complete crisis. And I've been down there multiple times. I've been to the border more times than Biden and Harris combined. And when I was down there last week, it's more chaotic than ever. In the 40-mile sector that I was in, there'd been 4,000 Chinese nationals that had come across in the last 30 days, 20,000 just since October. A year ago, there were hardly any Chinese. But we're talking people from 140 countries and from all the countries that were currently in an adversarial relation. We're heading towards World War III, and yet we've got Syrians, Iranians, Russians, Chinese, North Koreans all entering the country over the southern border. And in 2016, this was about immigration. And Republicans support legal immigration. But today, the border issue is about national security. And on the story you had on earlier tonight about the horrendous and tragic murder in Georgia, this is about public safety. It's about safe neighborhoods. And so we have to do whatever it takes. And the Border Patrol is overwhelmed in terms of the number of people. And on the other side, the cartels have got more money, more organization, and more resources than we do on our side. So this is a national security crisis, and we need to use the military and whatever resources we have, like the National Guard from the states like ours.
So to be clear, Governor, and I don't mean to interrupt, I don't think anyone contests that there is a crisis, a full-blown crisis at the border. You support military flights and detention camps as per Mr. Trump's latest plan.
Well, we don't have resources for other people to do flights. And in terms of what you call a detention camp right now, I mean, that detention would be retaining. When people enter our country illegally, there should be retained. Instead, as you just reported, we're not detaining them. We're busing them into cities with no background checks, nothing at all. I mean, just dumping people into the country, and not just at the border, whether, from New York to San Diego, Carbondale, Colorado, you pick a city, there have been buses unloading people, and Americans are saying this is not safe, it needs to stop. And right now, if the federal government doesn't have the resources to do it, then we have to, whether it's National Guard, whether it's the military, we've got to secure our border. It's a national security issue. Using the military is an appropriate use for a national security issue.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.